Typical. One sec, the door's just knocked.
Oh, there you go.
Bye. We find that fascinating, and we love the synchronicities. You may get a knock at your metaphysical or your metaphorical or your symbological door. That was our Amazon subscriptions, and it's got the number 14.2Z on it. So this is a follow-up. This is a reading that is linked and connected to, if you go to the description box below, our unique challenging on understandings of the pre-conscious, pre-subconscious and pre-superconscious. And this is a collective reading on these energies. And we did bring up at the end of that, you don't have to, it's like 2 hours long. There's a lot of us chatting at the start, which is all very needed for us and meaningful. But at the end, we do mention about moderation, number 14, and self-discipline, 41. And we mentioned about the doubling patterning, 2, 4, 8, 16, 32 a little bit. We talk about the grand trine and this major perspective shifting energies for the collective that we're in at the moment, with the 3 outer planets. The outer planets influence the global nation. They're a generational planet. For instance, Pluto is leaving Capricorn forever, going into Aquarius on November the 19th, give or take, depending on your time zone. Finally, forever. So that's an ending of a 15-16 year cycle starting around 2008, because there's the retrograde, where it shifts from one sign to another at the start and the end of a cycle. And so you may wish to go back to see what was happening then. It's the most outer planet, transformation, endings, beginnings, death, rebirth, the underworld. Pluto is the modern ruler of Scorpio, and the traditional ruler of Scorpio is Mars. And Mars is actually going into, I'm pretty sure it's going into a number of squares. It was over the 48 hours, so we might have just come out of the period of time that Mars and Pluto were squaring, in opposition for 48 hours. So 2, we also mentioned about the importance for us personally of 2 and 4. 2 is also the number of balance between the masculine and the feminine. It's yellow, so it's the empowering energies. And 750 or 57 is teaching and learning. Pluto's moving out of Capricorn into Aquarius. And there, for instance, we're in the Libra generational collective. And if you were born from 1971 to 1984, your Pluto will be in Libra. So that you'll be on the same energetics as us with Pluto. But whether you're the beginning of Libra, the middle, or the end, we're like 25 degrees, so we're towards the end of Libra for our Pluto. And Pluto was retrograde. Pluto's actually just come out of retrograde in the last few days, so that actually is interesting, because we haven't done a reading like this for a long time, and this is just a spontaneous, intuitive reading to go with the collective of energies between all of our 4 channels of what's going on for the collective, but also what's going on for us. But we do things very differently, of which we're kind of like, the people aren't ready for, the majority of people aren't ready for the messages that we have to give, but we've been our own teacher, our own student, we've been our own reader, our own receiver, and so these are just as much for us as they are for you. We're having to relearn everything as well, so this is a very makeshift setup, but we're loving how it just happens to be in the middle of us behind there, the skeleton, and our going to say our oracle, but it's not our oracle, but it is our oracle, our altar that is like our oracle. And we've just moved our pole, which we would eventually like to do what you get your pole dancers doing, but we're nowhere near ready for that. But we use it for a lot of other things, and that's going to be a back support for when we do our visual meditations, looking at the spiritual painting of our higher self. It's also a B, which is like an 8. So I don't know if you've got any personal symbology with B, 14, 2, Z, or 750. But there's a knock on your door, whether you choose to answer the knock on your door, again, whether it's symbolic, metaphoric, metaphysical, is up to you. But would like to say, be very attentive that if you're choosing not to answer the knock at the door, not to receive the call, then there may be some extreme forced tower moments that fall upon you. And although things can be cause discomfort, things are much gentler and come with ease if we choose to take the conscious ride rather than the unconscious ride, energetic ride of life. And this is a reading about the this is a following on from the understanding of the pre-subconscious, the pre-superconscious, and pre-conscious, in that zigzag sine wavelength flow of patternology. This is our homegrown, homemade rosemary smudge stick. So thank you for the energies that you are giving us there. And we have our black candle here as well. And as I said, we do things differently. Our guides are altered states of consciousness, our alternate personalities, and we have to constantly, every time we shift into a new system, collective, internally, we have to relearn everything. And it can be quite a challenge for the conscious mind. Think about it for yourselves. How easy do you find it to learn something new? And so to imagine having to do that over and over again, it can present a number of profound lessons and experiences to learn from, to really grow and face certain complicated, challenging situations, especially when coming from different age brain networks and opposite ends of the pendulum swing and perspective. And so we haven't got the whole top-down system thing going. If we were going to do that, we'd like to use the StreamYard, but so we've just got hopefully this will work. We just got a magnetic whiteboard with our black cloth on, and we've got our wonderful stress ball, a little bit of magnetic ASMR. And so hopefully these will fit the cards onto the board. It looks like we're not going to achieve our 10 minutes if we're just going to do about 8 minutes of a talking intro. But as I said, we're spontaneous in the moment, and so don't even know what's going to come out to us. But we do know we've got the young Robert Wang, or it could be Vang, tarot psychology, which is Jungian psychology. We've got a little bonus deck at the end for the end message, and we've just opened this book. We haven't actually opened it, but we have taken the cellophane wrapper off this book, Lucid Dreaming, Lucid Living. So should we get into the message and see what's presented to us? And we'll start with the lucid living, lucid dreaming. And we already like the boxes. We like the boxes when they have a message inside. And so there's a little message here. I dreamed I was a butterfly flitting around in the sky. Then I awoke. Now I wonder, am I a human who dreamt of being a butterfly? Or am I a butterfly dreaming that I am a human? And that's from Shuang Tzu. Are you dreaming? Live with lucidity. Dream with lucidity. Are you awake? And this is reminding of a wonderful person to watch is Nassim Haramein. And he's the only person that we listen to that brings us a sense of just like, he gets what we get, but he's much more in the intellectual intelligence and comprehension with his quantum mechanics and quantum physics and his equations of the universe. But what he says and describes is just links all of, like, if you were to break us down into conventional psychology and bring in labels, which we're not fond of at all, because we feel how that causes more separation and fragmentation, which for someone from a conventional psychological terminology, we have DID, dissociative identity disorder, that hinders progression forward of cohesion and coherence and integration and wholeness. And Nassim is one of the first, he says in his interviews how people generally tend to think of themselves as oneself, but they're not oneself. They're a host body of trillions of cells and bacteria. And for us, that's what our DID is. And so we've been intuitively led for this random journey that we're on today, which our conscious minds really didn't want, because we had a whole list of things to do. One, to be changing our internet to a cheaper provider, but we did manage to change our electricity and get our solar panels registered. So that's awesome. So we're going to do this collective reading, and it's to do with the Plutonian energies, it's to do with Neptunian energies, the Uranus energies, because these three outer planets are all changing signs over the next 2 years, creating a grand trine. Trine can be put simply into one word as ease. So there's going to be an ease of this massive shifting of energetics that is making history, because it's never happened before in history where three outer planets have changed, which have such a big global generational impact, have changed within such a short amount of time. And for us in the other reading with the pre-subconscious, subconscious is, so it's that you've got your conscious awake awareness. A lot of people aren't really very awake in their conscious awareness, and you have your unconscious. And for us, the unconscious is the superconscious, which is the unseen subtle energetics that we as matter, we as a body are flowing through. It's spirit, but everything's spirit. But for us, the superconscious is, for us, is your gamma wavelength. It's your 30 hertz upwards. Our waking state is the beta brain wavelength, which is it's our waking active state, which is your everyday tasks and being awake, and that's from 13 hertz to 30 hertz. And then alpha, where we get into a relaxed state and we're not doing anything that's sort of stressing us out, but we're just like relaxed. Now you could be relaxed when you're running, swimming, painting, drawing, reading, writing, or it may be that you've gone to have a massage or some kind of alternative therapy, acupuncture or sound healing, or you're doing your yoga practice, or it's after your yoga practice, and that's your alpha brain wavelength, which we're not always precisely accurate on the numbers, so always do your own research, but we believe that's 8 to 13 hertz or 8 to 12.99 hertz. And then after that, and that's 2 states of waking. You've got your waking conscious relaxed, and you've got your waking consciousness active. And then more into the unconscious, but rather than the fast gamma brain wavelengths, which is where if you're awake, then it's like one might describe it as their external guides supporting them, and they're channeling, they've gone into that present moment of receiving information through their own processing system of our beautiful human body. Or you could be in your sleeping receptive state of psychic channeling information in your rapid eye movement. So that's then you're going into your theta brain wavelength, which is your 4 to 8 hertz, and then you're going down to delta, and that's your real deep sleep, which is 1 to 4 hertz. And so we integrate the scientific and the esoteric, and we are on our own journey. We've put in another label to it just to help you understand our situation. We have a processing language disorder, and when we're switching between different brain networks between the body and in our brain, different ages, our vocabulary, hello lovelies, our vocabulary can change, and our age networks can change, which also changes the use of our words, and things also can get a bit mixed up. Hence why always just do your own research, always go by your own intuition. For us, it's about finding the depths of our own authenticity and uniqueness, and that doesn't come from living someone else's rules, systems, or ways. It comes from understanding ourselves so well that we find our own systems, rules, and ways, through somatic work, through breath, and all kinds of things. And what we're just loving there is the L. We had trouble with the L, and on Zanoni Snowflake channel, it was about the L, the length coming into play. And in the body, because we're all interconnected, our brain, our intellect is a reflection of our body. And for us, it's the heart body that comes first. In yoga, to gain length in your body, to gain length in your muscles, you have to widen them. And so it's talking about this. It's also, so that's the paternology we're talking about, if you do work in paternology, but it's also talking about, it's the zigging and the zagging, two wavelengths coming together in your chakra yoga, kundalini yoga. You have your idga and your pingala, your masculine and your feminine, winding their ways up, and where they cross is the sharps, the black keys on the keyboard. So it's all about integrating your scientific and your esoteric and finding our own way. So we'll start to see, we'll give them a quick shuffle. We don't focus so much with shuffling the oracle decks when they're a new deck is the tarot, because the tarot for us we feel is more important to separate, whereas the oracle is just a whole different energy to dance with and navigate. So, oh look, hello, we have SLVK. Hello SLVK, welcome. Yes, our subconscious is affected by the frequencies. For us, everything is energy, and frequencies are the cycles per second of, we're going to lose our words now, of that energy, and how that frequency is interpreted from our experiences depends which sensory system it comes in at, and that's for our alternate states of consciousness as well. So we've got two. What have we got? Titopomo, 3 levels of lucidity, and 2, the dream signs, which we always love because there's get used to the angles. Now, seeing how this camera is not very good, it's all a bit grainy, isn't it? Or maybe that's to do with YouTube. We'll have to find out, but that'll be in future. So on the box, we recognize that picture. Yeah, that was on that beautiful message at the front. 2 dream signs. We just did start off of how 2 was very symbolic at the start of this, with the balancing energies of the masculine and the feminine. And for us, when we go into Tesla and the Tesla code, we had a beautiful download the other day. The Tesla code is 369 of Tesla theory, if you want to look into that. For us, 369 are the numbers related to the code for understanding the unseen energetic dimensions. And your other numbers, your 2, 4, your 1, 2, 4, 5, 7, 8 are for the seen energetics. And this zigzag motion that we were talking about, so for instance, what we see in the tangible is like in an opposite mirror expression in the untangible. So 42 would be 24, for instance, to get that image on the numbers. Black would be white. Like if you understand polarity, or if you're familiar with old school photography, then you have your negative has the opposites to your actual photo that you look at. So it's that polarity. And for us, it's about transcending duality reality to gain the comprehension of understanding the need of polarity reality, because we do live on earth, we do live in human bodies, so our body is, everything's about the push and the pull. It is about the opposites, but it's not about this or that, it's about this and that. And when we develop this growth and understanding that we need to surrender our conscious mind's need to know and understand to gain our own experience of life through our individual unique processing system, to find the depths of our own authenticity, then we have to be patient, surrendering our conscious mind's need to know and understand, allowing our subconscious and our superconscious to bring in the information that we need for that moment. And this is what we've been doing for the last decade. So let's see if our magnets, we'll hold these up on the magnetic board. It's very interesting. If you look back through our videos, which there's some of them are quite embarrassing, we've really had to allow surrender to take place. We might actually keep these down. Let's see if they work, and then we'll keep them down. Don't think it's going to work. That's a bit sad. Will it work? It works without this. So take away the darkness on the black and just go on the white. Okay, that's understandable. So lucid dreaming, lucid living. Shintosai is our channel of red and yellow, root chakra and the third chakra. Yellow is like empowerment. It's also no names used, doesn't want a name used. Witch and Skyfe talks about how the soul star in her esoteric learnings is in your solar plexus, and the solar plexus is the control house for the fourth limb of yoga, pranayama, rhythmic breath control. And our breath is the tool to be used to unite, to bring into coherence and cohesion our body, our mind, our spirit, our soul, our heart. And in this fast speeding world that we're living in, there's a lot of people now where their autonomic nervous system isn't naturally regulating itself, and so there's all kinds of ailments, disorders, diseases happening. So we have to take conscious awareness and conscious control to manage ourselves and find the tools to apply in the moment when we need to bring our nervous system into regulation, to eventually then reprogram our autonomic nervous system so that it starts regulating itself, so that eventually we don't need the tools, because the tools are just a support network and mechanism to start with. And so here it's I was going to say it's a cup, but it's actually half a moon, and we've just come out of the half moon we've just come out of an eclipse. We've got an Aries full moon coming up on the 17th. This is actually generally our moonology channel as well. It's also the external, the professional. Eventually, hopefully, we'll gain that professionality to how we perceive it to be as it organically unfolds and manifests. And so it's an Aries full moon coming up on Thursday the 17th, or depending on your time zone. And we've just come out of the Libra lunar eclipse and Pisces lunar eclipse and Libra total eclipse. And so she's actually, it almost looks like she's bathing in this half concave half moon. And it was a Capricorn half moon, and the Capricorn, Pluto is leaving Capricorn on the 19th of November, forever moving into Aquarius. So you may want to look to see where your Pluto is. Capricorn is the ruler of your bones, your skin, your knees, your backbone, your joints, your ligaments. Earthly energy, card of the devil in the tarot, number 15. So you may want to just look into your chart, see where your Capricorn is, also see where the Astro Blueprint Capricorn is, which is house 5, to see what energies are in your house 5. And then you may want to do a bit of, we call it eccosuring. We don't like the Googling. Ecosia is a surf engine which will plant trees. And so there's a harmonic integration and relationship between Earth rather than this mass consumerism that's going on with the world. And so it's just being more ethical and aware in our thoughts and actions, knowing that, you know, we don't do it all the time. It's easy to go into Google on our phone because it's what's there automatically first, rather than having to download another app and put that in and then get used to it. And then the whole layout's different. So there's a lot of micro habitual behaviors and patterns that need to be changed. And that, to use one of the 4 agreements, always do your best, because your best is going to be different. How tired you are, how healthy you are, what your vital energy is in that moment. But when we do swim, when we do swim in the half moon energies, we find more of a place of centeredness and balance. And so what's coming to us now is we used to charge our moon water up under a full moon and a new moon. And then after a few years of doing that, it was just like, what are we doing? When you have a sine wave, so seeing if we've got the whiteboard here at the moment, for those of you that don't know what a sine wave is, this is a sine wave. And if you were to put this is your sine wave. So one complete wave is from these points here. And if you've got your axes, your zero gravity, your center of gravity is your 0 here. And so zero gravity is the center of the ball, it's the center of the circle. It's when we are centered, it's the eye of the storm. And so therefore it was like, why are we focusing on the full peak or the new moon trough? The new moon energies is about the introspection, really going deeply inwards, and the full moon is about the illumination when things light up. And so we were like, we're going to start putting our moon water out under a quarter moon and charge it up under that to get the frequencies of that 0 point gravity to get that centeredness. We charge our moon water with shungite, and we also put the chakra crystals in as well. So that actually became very handy for that little description. And so there's also the butterflies in the background. There's the butterfly thing that was in the box, but one of our favorite butterfly sayings is happiness is like a butterfly. The more you chase it, the more it will elude you. But if you turn your mind to other things, it will come sit quietly on your shoulder. We got this actually done on a batik in Malaysia, Tiaman Island. And it was really interesting because quietly was spout wrong and the E was in the wrong place. So it said quietly, which is quite a cute word. So you can change happiness for anything there. So if there is something that there's a calling deep in your heart, there's a habit you really want to give up, or there's just anything, whatever it is, if that's what's constantly on your mind, then it's about shifting the awareness and the attention to something else, not all the time, to give focused attention and awareness to whatever this thing is, maybe support networks or activities you can do to make yourself happy, or activities or things you can do to bring your energy levels back into balance, or to focus on it. And you may not, it depends where you're dancing and to start with. If you're dancing in more of an intellectual mind to start with, it may be that it's easier and more comfortable to be structured and organized and write lists down or write notes or do some research. If you're someone that's coming at it from a more of a body intuitive, or you're an artist or a creative, then it may be easier, first of all, to dance into movement, or to draw, or to write a poem, or to create a song, or to improvise with music, and then slowly navigate your way into the area that you're not so familiar with, and therefore so proficient with, depending on your own self-worth and self-esteem, to whether you feel you're proficient in that area or not. Because some people can be really proficient and skilled but not feel that way. Other people can feel confident and skilled but not be quite so proficient. So that is bringing us into that other happiness poetry symbol, which means poetry actually might be a good way to start for you. And there's so much different types of styles of poetry. We learnt a couple of years ago that rap actually means rhyme and poetry. How does tarot work? Like, they are decided by the energy you talked about. Well, tarot goes back to the most recent traditional tarot that goes back is your Rider-Waite, and it's it brings in a incorporation of astrology, your Hebrew letters, your numerology, pictology, and it kind of brings it all together and separates it into 78 cards. You've got your 22 cards of the major arcana. This is what we'll go on to tarot in a minute here, and then you've got 56 cards of your minor arcana. So it's kind of similar to your 56 cards are similar to your playing deck of cards, where you have 52 cards because there's 4 cards missing. You don't have your knights, if we remember correctly, in your playing deck of cards. But otherwise, you've got 1 to 10, ace to 10, and then you've got your page, knight, queen, king, but the knights aren't in your playing cards. And that's called cardomancy, or something like that. And so that's your number 2 energies, themes. Is a little bit far away. And then the other energies and themes are 3 levels of lucidity. It's not 3 levels of lucidity, it's just levels of lucidity, but it's card number 3. So we've already got a progression of 2 to 3 here, or 3 to 2. So there's a consecutive close progression, which is awesome, because what's been coming through us in our channelings and our downloads is that we're living in a time where the extremities of separation where it's just become too extreme in separation, whether it's extreme in, from, it used to be like the West and the East, like your developed countries and your non-developed countries. But even now, if you're in a non-developed country, there's a massive divide between rich and poor. And so therefore, this divide has got, the separation has got too big between your left and your right hemispheres. And consciousness being like God, consciousness being consciousness of everything, is, the familiar saying is, it runs through us, spirit runs through us, but actually matter flows through spirit. It's matter is condensed in the spirit. And so for us, talking about this is about the pre-conscious, the pre-superconscious, the pre-subconscious. And if you want to understand that more, go to the video link below towards the end. It's about narrowing that gap so that we can become more balanced, centered, whole human beings between our waking dream, our sleeping dream, our waking consciousness, and then our just sleep restorative, to replenish the conscious battery for when we're awake. And this has got that crescent is, it's a waning, so it's a waning crescent. So this one here, if you get your hands and do this with two curves, your left hand, which will be opposite one in you, this will be your left hand, shows you the curve. And so that curve will show you what the moon's doing. So that is actually a waning, when the moon's disseminating, it's going from full to new. So we just said that the full moon's coming up on the 17th in Aries. Then this waning crescent will be, it's about 2 weeks afterwards, which is 14 plus 27 is 31. We're in October, so there's 31 days. So coming towards the end of October, there will be, so that means the new moon is going to be the start of November. It's going to be an influential time for one of the outer pillars of stabilizing energy. So you may want to look up to see what sign, what energy astro sign that is in, how that astro sign then impacts you by looking up on your chart to see if there's any planets there or not. If there's no planets there, it means that those energies are very well navigated before in your past lives, and so ought to come like maximum output with most ease. And then it just actually looks like two new moons. It actually looks like the solar eclipses that's just happened, the partial solar eclipse, which was a ring of fire. So going into your fire energies, while stabilized and balanced in your water energies. So let's just see what comes to us through the Jungian tarot psychology to go with those energies. Navigating, so understanding about focusing conscious, aware attention. Like the happiness is like a butterfly, the more you chase it, the more it will elude you. So when you do focus on exercises or activities or movements or whatever it is, to what makes you happy, choosing to learn to understand what makes you happy, do that consciously and focus, but then let it go. So then if you're finding that it's always preoccupying your time, finding the tasks and the chores that you need to do where that then is able to be released from your mind. So if you've got to do everyday house tasks and chores, maybe putting some music on in the background, putting some podcast on in the background. If you find the music can bring you back to, depending on the lyrics of the music, choose specific music without lyrics, or choose music with lyrics that aren't focused on the thing that you're attempting to release from the forefront of your mind. And understanding that there are different components, and that when we dance in alignment with the moon energetics as a collective, but also understanding our individual blueprint of energetics, and it may be that you follow moonology or your astrology, or it may be that you do something else altogether, but you've still got your own energetic blueprint of how that speaks to you, how that entwines and dances in and out of the collective energetic blueprint that's going on. And that when we do it unconsciously, when we've got massive extremes of energy coming in like there are at the moment in the next 2 years, then we can have much more uncomfortable scenarios and situations arise than if we choose to actually do our best to do it consciously. And that there are no rules to it. It's what your intuition, you decide. There's a lot of information out there at the moment, and it can be very daunting. And don't worry about all that. Find your way, find your path, trust yourself. And it may be that there's nothing, no clear information or words coming in at the moment, and that's okay. Still trust yourself, learn to be in that unknown space and learn to be comfortable in the uncomfortable. So what tarot have we got to come out with this at the moment for our young psychology, with those energies of the lucid dream signs and levels of lucidity? I'm starting to understand your own omen dictionary. If there's anything, a number that comes up multiple times, write down that number. If there's a symbol or a colour or a pattern that comes up multiple times, jot that down in a journal. And then once you start bringing your focus and your attention to that symbology, and that's coming up a few times, then expand your consciousness, expand your conscious awareness into, well, what was happening in that moment when that symbol came up, when that number came up, when that colour came up, that pattern came up. And then eventually you'll be able to start building up your own dream dictionary. And you may be like us, and it may not come naturally to write things down. Do an audio message or type it in your phone, or take a photo diary and then make another file on your phone where you can put that photo diary in it so you can look back on it easily. Or attempt to just do it completely intuitively and just attempt to remember it in your mind, and you may or may not remember. And therefore, if there is a lot of information coming in for you, if you don't remember it easily, it's not meant for you at that time, and it will still be getting banked and sorting itself out. But this is where you're surrendering to the powers of your sub and superconscious, understanding that what comes into your foresight and conscious awareness in the moment is what you need in that moment. Because if you're like us, you'll get a lot of information channeling through, and it can become very overwhelming and very daunting, and that will just frazzle your nervous system even more. So please, can you give us concise messages to go with the levels of lucidity and the dream signs, whether waking state or sleeping state, to gain 0 point gravity and that more balanced centered living, so that one is the eye of the storm no matter what chaos is going on around them. Okay, so we've got the 2 cards there. Beautiful. It looks, we've got the Ace of Swords and the 8 of Fire. So 8 is a very working, active, doing card, and Ace is a new beginnings. So that's like just what, that's wonderful and beautiful. There's going to be a whole new beginnings in your intellectual mindset once you of shifting perspective easily. So that there's a new clarity and awareness and understanding coming in with what the passion and spark and the fire is, to restore your vital energy systems to balance, because it's also an 8. We talked about the Tesla code, but we didn't finish that. Well, we did finish it off for that moment, but for us in that Tesla code, in the unseen energetics, it's the 369. But working in the fractal geometry of fractal dimensions, you've got the seen, you've got the unseen, but you've got the unseen in the seen, and you've got the seen in the unseen. So to make it a bit easier, you've got the black unseen, you've got the white, the seen, and then you've got the black within the white and the white within the black. Does that remind you of anything? The Chinese yin yang symbol. It's the masculine and the feminine. So the 6 of the Tesla theory of the unseen is actually the seen. Is the seen within the unseen. The whole thing's the seen, but it's the seen within the unseen, and that's your bridge into the seen. And then the 2 and the 8 are your bridges to the 6. So it's not a straight bridge, it's like a symbol like this, a less or more symbol. And both of them, 8 and 2, are both balancing energies, but 8's made up all of curves, and there's this very symbolic mirroring energies of mirroring patternology as well. and 2 0-point gravities coming together, the duality coming together to create wholearity, because we've transcended the intellectual mindset of duality reality, understanding the need for polarity, because they're two different things. One is this or that, and the other is this and that. Understanding the paradoxes that goes on, understanding how two people can say things that sound completely opposite, but they're actually saying the same thing if one gets to the root intention behind the words, because it's not always easy to describe stuff, especially if words aren't a natural skill or ability to someone. So we really love them, and that's our natural interpretation of them, the intuition. But we are actually now going to read from the book quickly what both of those energies mean. And this is a spontaneous one, and we are more than likely, we're not going to say definitely, we feel more than likely this is something we'll do in the future, and we'll get better at it, but this is a spontaneous moment where we weren't expecting it. Just out of interest, because we do like to do the top and the bottom. The bottom, oh, we love this, especially seeing as it's all about the Venus star point energies and stuff at the moment as well. And the Venus star point is your pentagon, is your 5-pointed star, it's the cosmic heartbeat. And doing a collective reading utilizing the cosmic energies, for us it's all about having heart value alignment and symbiosis, and heart value based systems, understanding the importance of differing belief systems, and it's 34 cosmic self and inner child, because when we surrender our conscious minds need to know and understand, surrender to the powers of our sub and super conscious minds, dancing within the pre-conscious, the pre-superconscious and the pre-subconscious. You have to go to our other video to understand that, because it's not as linear as one might think on that zigzag patternology. Then we allow our inner child to come out and play, and there's more of that in there as well. So we're not going to go into these too much, and that is the subconscious, the unseen, the unaware. So expect over these next couple of years for these inner child energies to come out, and they could come out in a feeling from an current societal view of an intellectual comprehension of a regression. But a regression doesn't have to be a bad thing. It's the emotional attachment we assign to something, and if we're stuck in the current derogatory systems and understandings of things, then regression is a bad thing, unless you're looking at it from hypnosis and you're doing past life regression or something. So it's really understanding the context and the way words are being used. But regression just means there's something else going on in your body somewhere else, and don't cause yourself any unnecessary worry or angst. Just understand that there's other energetics in your body going back to your childhood that are wanting to be seen and heard, and may have to do a bit of detangling to get seen and heard in a healthy mannerism, especially if they, if you didn't grow up in a healthy environment, you're going to absorb some of that unhealthy way of communicating and experiencing of life and being of life. And then in the conscious, the aware, the seen, the top of the pack. Oh, look at that. So that's 34. So we've got a 2, 3, 4. 432 hertz is the harmonic musical system to brings harmony when you play through 432 hertz tuned. 440 hertz, which is what society is tuned to, causes dissonance. Some people see that as a bad thing. We've learned that it's not a bad thing, it's our own attachment to something, and actually some people need help breaking up certain cellular structures or connective tissue, because that helps release blockages and create untangling. But at the same time, we need the balance of the 432 hertz as well. And so that's why when we bring ourselves into nature is natural binaural beats and 432 hertz. And so you've got the 2, 3, 3, 4, and then we're going into number 4, which is 2, 3, 4 again. So it's a wonderful easy stepping, linear, logical comprehension to something that is generally ineffable, uncomprehendable from the linear mind. And this is for recurring dreams. And just there, if you want to see this patternology again go on, go to the other video we keep talking about, and when we share our screen, you get that inception, you get the picture within the picture within the picture, you get a visual representation of what fractal geometry, energetics and frequencies is like. And again, you've got the child and she's walking through the doorways, she's walking through the doors, stage by stage. Ah, beautiful. So we're not actually going to read from the book on this one. We'll read the very top bit, but they're quite long, and we've done enough on their own intuitive reading of it, we feel, for the length of things. So 2, this one here, dream signs. Bathing in the moonlight, the dreamer explores spherical orbs of light to learn what they may mean. To the outside observer, they are indistinguishable from one another. However, each sphere is an opportunity to awaken unique clues from her subconscious. As she touches upon one of them, it glows brightly and illuminates the realization that she is actually dreaming. Keywords, patterns, signposts, and signals, strong emotions, clarity in the aftermath. So there's a lot of meanings there, but we won't go on to all of that could be, but that's an awesome little description there of number 2. And when it says her, it doesn't matter if you're in a male body, a female body, or what pronouns you assign to yourself or identify with. It's the feminine energies within you. 3, the levels of lucidity. The dreamer rejoices because she has recognized the various levels of lucidity. She knows how to step through each one of the lucid portals to gather their gifts. Thus, she brings more awareness into her dreams and her waking reality. Keywords: discernment, alertness, order, natural cycles, and progress. So again, we've got lots of connections coming to that. So I hope you have as many beautiful connections as we're getting now. And we're going to read the other 2 because they're just so fitting for it. So we'll read 4, the recurring dreams, conscious, top of the pack, seen, aware. The dreamer walks endlessly through the doorways of the same dream. Her final destination looks just like her original starting place. Is she caught in a ball of mirrors or making progress towards seeing through the patterns? Only her dedication to awakening will answer that question. Keywords: unfinished business, trapped in a hall of mirrors, hopelessness, and breaking cycles. So again, we can notice our own personal connection to those collective energies that are coming out. And then 34 is actually going into the first card of the guides, guardians, and archetypes. So this is a guard. So your inner child is a guide, guardian, and archetypes card, which is fascinating because the tarot psychology is all about archetypes. So this is the subconscious, the unaware, the unseen, collective energies, and how do your personal energies and frequencies align and connect and integrate into these, so that you can be of service to yourself and the greater collective for the evolution and involution of consciousness, to finding the collective harmony and 0-point gravity and centered balancedness as a human global nation. 34, cosmic self and inner child. Playfully, the inner child splashes in the waters of eternity. The presence of the cosmic self surrounds the child as he gazes up at the black hole. Feeling its presence, he knows he has a direct connection to the cosmos always. Keywords: playfulness, exploration, healing childhood wounds, reunion with lost parts of yourself. Everything is in flux. So we love that because it says black hole in the conventional understanding of black hole. But for us, black hole is the black WHOLE, as in a whole space of cohesion, coherence, and integration, not a whole as an empty void that sucks life out of us. And if you go into Nassim Haramein again, he will describe how the black hole the center of an atom is a black hole, and the center of the atom, the mass of a center of atom, is the same as the universe. We just don't have the scientific tools that are able to measure it completely accurately. And so, yeah, we absolutely love that one, because every chakra center is a black hole. It's a vortex of energy. And we're on, as individuals, as human beings, you and us, we're on this journey to get that push of pull of being in a human body, and to be on earth, and get that push and pull of duality to the tension that creates our own individual unique tune and song, like a guitar string. And if you're in somewhere like Vietnam or East Asia, the tunes and the music can sound very different to a Western ear, and it can almost sound out of tune, but it's not. We're just all attuned to different frequencies, to different hertz. When we find our own song, it's so rare and beautiful and unique, then it can't be mirrored by anyone else, because we've dived to the depths of our own being. So just before we start reading the tarot psychology cards, we'll just look at this one. We're just getting curious if we know which one this one is. We think it's the Hierophant, which is Taurus. But we don't know if it's, no, I don't think it is a major arcana. I think it's actually a king. I think it's the king of fire, but we'll check that one in a minute. So the subconscious, the unseen, is the king of fire, which is beautiful again, because it means that there's a progression of energy from this 8 of fire, where we're getting a new beginnings in our intellectual mind that's connected to our deepest fires and heart passion. And there's an action that's going to start taking place, and it's going to start taking place consciously, if that's what you choose for it to be. And then we're going to go fly from the 8 up to the king of fire energies of creation. And so it's like, if you know that exponential curve, it can take a long time, but then you're straight up, and it doesn't quite curve in like that again, or maybe it does in the review, but it's a slow process to start with, and then there's a big upward momentum. And so that's how it's going to end up being on your creative, fiery, passionate energies. But that's the unseen. This is interesting, because in the conscious, the aware, the seen, there's actually what's perceived as maybe a regression to start with, where you've gone from an 8 of wands, an 8 of fire energies, back to a 4 of fire, 4 of energy. So we did say about what is the natural instinctual emotional attachment and belief system that you have to regression. Is it a bad thing or not? And then if you feel like you're regressing in certain mental patterns, like for us, for instance, after our seizures, we did accountancy and bookkeeping before, but suddenly then we couldn't really add up in a conventional mathematical way, and 3 became half of 8 rather than half of 6. And in the current day and age that we live in, that is very scary and feels like a deterioration of the brain. But if we change our mindset, then change our way of looking at something, then that regression is just energy going somewhere else that needs something to happen before we can, because we couldn't get to the next level of intellectual consciousness and awareness in the current energetic patterning that we had within our holistic body and state. So that's really fascinating. So let's just look in the psychology book. So that 4 of wands, is 4 of, of course, we didn't make those connections. 4 of wands, although it seems like a progression going from an 8 to a 4, because it feels like you're going backwards, 4 of wands is actually the success card. And because we're reading these cards in the moment, we didn't make that connection between the traditional tarot, where 4 of wands is actually, it's the card of union, it's the card of marriage. And so that's wonderful. I'm not going to actually read what it is on this one. An 8 of wands is intellectual activity. So there's a new beginnings in intellectual activity. We will read that one, but we're just going to read the first bits of the other 2 first. Is that the King of Wands card? That comes at the start. The kings and the stuff come at the start. So actually, that's actually very interesting. Remember that when we got this deck, how it starts with the King of Wands in the deck, and then it goes down to the princess and then to the ace. And that really made sense to us, because on the patch tarot wisdom wheel that we've used, in the center of the wheel is your pages and your aces that come together, and here they're next to each other. So we found that really fascinating. So yeah, that is the King of Wands on your bottom of the pack, the subconscious, the unaware, the unseen, and that is the card of the aggressive father. That terminology we don't necessarily like so much. We have a negative emotional attachment to it. So we have a negative emotional attachment to that word aggressive. But if we take away our own personal attachment to the word aggressive, aggressive just means forceful. It means movement, and whether that force, how that force is used, depends on the intention behind it, and that's then where it can get perceived, I suppose, as good or bad. To how that energy is used. And so because we have just come out of 48 hours of Mars opposing Pluto, Mars is a very strong, forceful energy, and how we use that energy, or direct that energy, has to be really attentive and wise and careful, because we might have a good intention, but we haven't put in, maybe we haven't done the prerequisite stages needed before we apply that force, because we were unaware, or we didn't know, or we put in a good intention but the steps needed weren't quite the best for the situation, and so it might have caused harm. But it doesn't, if it wasn't intentional, then there ought to be, if there's other people involved, then one would hope that all round there is forgiveness involved and unconditional love involved, because certain actions can happen to harm people, but it's not intentional. But then it's the severity of those actions, and we're not going to get into the depths of what they can be. So reading the cards up there, what is the Ace of Swords? The Ace of Swords, the first one to see, is conflict of ideas. So we saw it as a new beginning. We read it as a new beginning intuitively in the intellectual mind, coming to your intellectual activity. This says a conflict of ideas. So again, this is using a lot of wording that could have very strong emotional reactions to. We are not good because of our childhood experience with conflictual situations. But it's very healthy. In our therapy book, we do to therapy ourselves of the bothered, why bother, because we did some kinesiology, and this book stood out to us because in the kinesiology the lady asked the question silently in her head to our body, do we want to look after ourselves? And it was a really resounding yes. She then asked us, do we want to nurture ourselves? And it was no, why bother? And it was just as strong and extreme on either end, and it took us on a very long journey to actually understand the difference of nurture and look after from an objective perspective, and then to apply that to ourselves on a subjective perspective. And so conflict for us does stir up some challenging emotions. And so how do you react to certain words? Are you able to see where those reactions come from in the first place to the certain words? And if you are you then able to be compassionate and patient and gentle and kind with yourself, to be able to turn those reactions around into responses, so that it may be that you have to take yourself away from whatever it is word. It might be a person that uses certain terminology and they're not able to change the terminology they use, so you have to step away. But are you able to step away? How are you able to step away? So it's about questions of inquiry. There's no good or bad to any of this. It's about understanding your emotional needs at that time, understanding other people may not be able to understand your emotional needs at that time, and then there may not be able to be a healthy dialogue of communication. But there's no wrong or there's no right. There just is what there is, and to do your best to hold compassion and kindness and patience for the energetic space, whether each other's involved or not. And so always delve in to your heart as best as you can. And for us, it's gone right back to the deepest depths of roots of no words and of just pure primal vocal sounding, and subtle shaking. So Ace of Swords, conflict of ideas, and again it's that whole transcending the duality reality, understanding the need for polarity reality, understanding that living on earth in human bodies, even down to understanding the biomechanics of the body, is one muscle extends and one contracts, and to get the healthy movement in the body we have to get that healthy tension. To get the note that you want on a guitar to play the song that you want, you have to tune it to a certain tension. And it's the same with the unseen energetic forces of life. Joyce, hello, my lovely. Blessings from Washington State, and blessings to you as well, sweetheart. Thank you for sharing our garden online. Thank you for receiving our sharing so beautifully. That means more than you can know. I hope there's some metaphorical garden beauties of information coming out of this reading for you, because it's quite a spontaneous, intuitive flow journey that we're on. They're much better than they used to be, we can tell you. So here we go. Here is a power struggle, a card of ideological conflict, of battle over principle and over points of view where the strongest, not necessarily the best, advocate is the victor. Great force comes into play and exposes secrets which may be shocking. The real truth comes out in the midst of the fight, and someone may be seriously hurt, emotionally, physically, and perhaps financially. The struggle can be very violent, very direct, and very open. There's no subtlety of conflict, such as that found in the Ace of Cups. Yet, something positive always emerges as mind sets are played one against the other. So just going to interrupt ourselves there, because this is making us understand a difference. So this is the Jung psychology tarot, and it's automatically noticing the difference in his interpretations to the aces compared to the Rider-Waite interpretations of the aces. And because this is a collective reading on the collective energetics, but also bringing our internal subjective experience to the table on a collective, we said a prayer for everyone in Florida and for everyone going through any extreme circumstances, whether it's natural, man-made, or in their own life, with Florida that's going on. And was it a hurricane or typhoon? It was hurricane, I think. And there's a lot of force in a hurricane. There's a build-up of energy, and it causes conflict and it causes pain on a mass scale. And now for us, we don't like the word that the external reality is from the Matrix is an illusion, because it's not, nothing's an illusion, because from our understanding and definition of illusion, it means it's not real. For us, everything is real, whether it's the unseen and the subjective, of which current society has dumbed down with intuition is not real, and that intellectual intelligence is more real and more important, when actually we feel that, like everything else, that's being backwards and that's back to front, and that the most important thing is intuition, is emotional intelligence, is the nurturing and the heart, because this is the information that's fed to the intellectual mind. And therefore that then, so we can look at it as electrochemical energy from the food that we put into our body, the prebiotics, the probiotics to diversify our gut biome, to the prebiotics to feed the probiotics, to create the healthy chemical reactions in our gut biome, to create healthy harmonic frequencies of electromagnetic energy that then get sent up to our brain through our circulatory system and our heart with the oxygen, hence taking in and breathing out as much as possible, conscious, aware breaths, until we've reprogrammed our autonomic nervous system that it regulates itself on naturally long and inhalations and exhalations. And this can be a long journey. It is for us. So you're not alone if that's the case for you. And it may be that you don't listen to people that say it's only healthy to breathe through your nose. For us, we get blockages, and we will start the journey by breathing through our nose and then breathing through our mouth and then breathing through our nose, because that's the only way we can get a full expansion of air in our lungs. And we will do the same on the exhalation, and we do all kinds of breaths in between. And we do hope at some point in the future to be able to share a fundamental framework to give to people so that they can use that as a guideline to find their own unique patterning, but not giving a step-by-step how to someone, because then you're living someone else's experience and you're not living your own. And we're about the depth of authenticity and the depth of uniqueness. And so straight away there, it's bringing us into the natural disasters. We're talking about the Pluto, Neptune, Uranus trine over these next 2 years, unprecedented again in history, that's going to be creating, changing from Tito Papai, Tito Momomo, Tai Tai. Just listening to the bird song. We're very present when we speak. And we're going into a future energetics now from this present moment, because this channel is Shintosai, red, yellow, present, objective, professional. And so there's the energy is super intense and super strong. And we were getting very mobile and liberal in our body movements then. And it was losing our centeredness inside. And so we say from the deepest depth of our being, which if you are a sensitive being yourself to the subtle energies, we're sure you can feel, it's hugely important that if your nervous system isn't naturally and easily, doesn't naturally and easily regulate on its own, your autonomic nervous system, that you find and put together your basket, your toolkit of what you're going to need to survive these next 2 years. And that's not to put fear in you at all. It's just saying that the energy is going to be huge, it's going to be intense, and it's going to be unknown. And if you're someone that's not comfortable with the uncomfortable, you're not comfortable in the unknown, then to prepare, just like you would a hurricane, a tsunami, an earthquake. If you're not able to evacuate because you haven't got the luxury of funds to evacuate, or you haven't got the luxury of time to know something's going to happen, then maybe you've always got a preparation stock already there of some tinned food and some water, which you rotate at however, whatever the lifespan is of them. And it's the same for us on our spiritual journey inside. If you're like us, it can get very confusing when you switch alternate personalities or brain states to know where to go. So maybe you get yourself like a shoebox or a special basket, which is in one place, and you have a notebook in there, a pen, a pack of cards, a musical instrument or little tincture bells or a chime or a rattle. You don't need to buy these things. You can find an old plastic tub that you've used that might have something in it, and fill it with lentils, or fill it with peas, or fill it with rice or quinoa. They're all different sizes. They all create a different rattle, and rattle helps shift energy in us. And so if we're in a real state, make sure the basket, if you're young and you're like us and your body networks go young, you can't reach up high, has to be low down, and have your different rattles so you can pull them up and you can shift that energy. Move slowly and move gently. Maybe have a playlist on your phone that's been specially created from your mothering, nurturing energies, ready, so that if you do go into a moment where there's going to be a trauma release or a trauma episode, that you've got exactly that right type of music that will bring you into a state of calm before. So if you know about the 5 rhythms, it will start off in a gentle state, and then it will reach up to climax. And then, so like that sine wave we had before with the full moon energies at the peak, and how we said to focus on the 0, don't focus on the trough, the new moon, don't focus on the full moon, to focus on the 0. But when it does get up here, this is the climax. It's the acute, it's the, what do they call it in music, staccato. Staccato even sounds like and it's very vibratory. So finding the things that can counterbalance, and it may be that you have to go into a few meditations beforehand to find out what these things are that you individually need. When we reflect back over the last decade, when all this started happening for us before the seizures, we got trapped in the bath for 7 hours once in a fetal position. We didn't have all this pre-knowledge to know about, but we've reflected back and we can see the different scenarios and situations, and that's why we've created our channels to observe ourselves. We created a playlist and put it on one of our channels so we could go to our root chakra playlist of music. So it might be that you have to use YouTube and use your channel in a different way. It doesn't need to be public. You can make it private so that only you can see that playlist when you go on your channel. But it might be that you can't find files elsewhere on your computer. So really, the best teacher is your student, and you are your teacher and your student. And witnessing and observing yourself and how you do things compassionately with no judgment is the biggest gift that you can actually give to yourself. And in giving that to yourself, you're creating your own harmonic, compassionate, internal subjective reality, and that then gets projected out. And the collective dream of global humanity that we live in is a collective, a collaboration, an alchemization of everyone's individual projections. So that is the biggest gift that you can give to humanity and everyone else as well. So we'll carry on reading. Entirely new ideas, so Ace of Swords, or principles may result, preconceived notions and intellectual position may be overturned. Outworn ideas may be discarded. Whoop, whoop. This may happen on a small scale between individuals, either at home or at work, or it may happen between great nations, or you may be doing what we've just said about it's happening with inside you. Because for us, when we do our chakra journey, which all of this is leading up to the group exercise, we've got up to the solo exercise Thursday of making a connection on our 52-week chakra journey, which has been about 80 weeks now, or maybe a bit more, because this last week, the conclusion week, is taking a long time. But we're on the group exercises to come next. But for us, it's the group exercise of the collective of us inside this one host body. And you're not crazy if you have multiple aspects of yourself. And it doesn't matter if those multiple aspects of archetypal selves is in your intellectual mind or manifested into your physical body more like us. You are beautiful. You are truly unique and authentic. And it is most important for people like you and us to step away from conventional society and perspectives and views to really understand how you uniquely learn, so that then you can uniquely teach yourself and then share yourself in the most beautiful way. Because at the end of the day, isn't that kind of what art's about? Sharing your very rare, unique perspectives and ways. And that's then what creates the global harmonic nation. The Ace of Swords represents the very basis of thought, the root of thought itself. Swords are the suit of the sun, S-O-N, and what we call thought is the joint product of mother female unconscious and father male creative spirit. So we're not going to see double pay, need no more pay. Oh, my lovelies. We're just going to laugh at that so much when we watch that one back. We're not going into that one any deeper. That's going to be very influential for us to go into deeper when we watch it back on our own questioning journey, because it will just take us into complete chaos right now if we do that. It's interesting, it said sun, S-O-N, but the thing we would be most driven to then was thought, because thought is a very interesting word, and the attachment and definition and meaning of, I suppose, depends on the contextualization of it, if that's the word, what context it's been used in. And you can even hear, we can hear, we don't know if you can hear. This is the importance. So this is the importance of using I statements, we statements, as in us. We can hear we can hear the pitch of our tone go up. We're not so deep and grounded in our body, but what we're actually, oh my God, that's fascinating. So we're actually, what we talked about in the other video, which we also talked about in the start of this one, is about L. And it's how, when in yoga, to get length, you need to widen your muscles. And that's something that we've been struggling with a lot. But we've learned a lot more about the understanding of a black hole. And thank you so much to our Shintosai Lifuma shorts healing journey that we did, because it has the angles one and all the other stuff on it, because it's really helped us put stuff together on this amazing surrendering to the power of our sub and super conscious journey. Because we previously thought, probably from conventional science, which has got a lot wrong, that a black hole sucks in all information, but it doesn't. There's only a certain angle at which stuff gets sucked into a black hole. If it's not at that right angle, it doesn't get sucked in. So if you think of the North Pole and the South Pole on Earth, there's only the information on that torus flow, the fundamental universal patterning of life. It has to be at a certain angle to get sucked in, and then it doesn't come out at the bottom again. It gets sucked in at both ends, and it comes out at the equator, and the equator is the wide part of Earth. And so you lengthen you widen your muscles to gain length. And this is how, when we listen to someone's speech and the way they talk, you can hear it in their tone, you can hear it in their pitch, and you can hear it in the pattern of the words. If someone's struggling with saying L, they're struggling with their patternology in their body is struggling with the width energetics, and therefore struggling with the length energetics, and therefore struggling to get optimum posture. And if there isn't optimum postural alignment in the body, there isn't going to be optimum health, and that's when dis-ease can kick in. So we're not going to go back to the start of what that was, but we could hear it in, that was the owl that we talked about, but we could hear in our voice, it's higher, it's not so grounded, but and so we're wanting to do the other 2 channels today, but if they're all going to be long like this, I don't think we'll have time, but we'll have to see what happens intuitively on the flow. But there's a narrowing. Tito pots, okay. The pots gives us the understanding of the pressure in our body. Yeah, and skinny, narrowing. So it's when you let the air out of the balloon and you make it really narrow. It makes a high-pitched sound. So when men generally can get a real deep bass tone, and women sing all up in the upper octaves. So men and women are generally functioning in different octaves, but you could get to a man and a woman that are both grounded in a C note, but the man's on a lower octave and the woman's in a higher octave. So you'd have to really look into your seed energetics, we're losing our terminology, but we're almost at the end of the reading. So this is perfect for us to go into the silent time of the Om, the A, R being creation, U being sustenance, and the being destruction, and the silent time being transcendent. And so after this, we'll go into our transcendent, we'll recalibrate, we'll center ourselves and we'll ground, and then our intuition will tell us whether we're meant to go on to the next 3 reading or not, or whether it's meant to happen over the next few days. Yeah, see, we're really going all over the place. We have no idea what we're drawing again now, but it might come back to us because we do have to read the 8 of Wands. Welcome to our intense dancing world. 8 of Wands, intellectual activity. We're just going to do a bit of primal vocal sounding, so you may want to join in with us, help shift the energies for us, help shift the energies for yourself, and help shift the energies for a collective. You may want to just do, this is, I'm pretty sure it's the Maori symbol or one body yoga mudra for presence. Just bring your elbow in front of yourself and your hand and giving it a vibration. So we're kind of just doing this in the front of us and behind us. That's the Sushumna, the central channel down the spine. So Tito Pomomobai. Oh, that's it. Yeah, that's really fascinating. So it's acting as a rattle. This is like what you do when you rattle a rattle, but there is no sound. But just because there's no sound doesn't mean you're not getting the same thing going on. Do shamans use rattles to clear the energy around them, or is that what they think they're doing, but the conscious mind is mistaken of what we've learned many times about ourselves, and actually they're shaking the rattle to get that body movement to clear the energetics in themselves that they're receiving off the energetics around them. Okay. In the 8, the dynamic and aggressive qualities of Wands, the fire suit, is applied to intellect. There is a rapid rush of ideas. Well, that's exactly what just happened to us before reading this, isn't it? So bang on. Expressed in literary activities of all kinds, such as books, articles, public speaking, and criticism. Writing of high quality may be produced quickly. The work may be of great originality or even of true genius. But as with all wands, the results of the push forward depend upon the person and the circumstances. Most important, the inspiration needs to be brought down to earth. And we're just going to stop there briefly because this is something that we find hugely important. And in the spiritual community, there's a lot of talk about outer body experiences and just kind of getting out of your body. And we've been saying for a while now, but it's not about outer body experiences out of the body. It's about out of body experiences in the body. It's about being able to bring these fast. It's about when we go into those states and we leave our body and have the experiences that whatever one has, their own subjective experience, which might be nothing, it might feel like nothing. But if you go into the Osho Zen Tarot, nothing, N-O, hyphen T-H-I-N-G, no hyphen thingness, is the black void. It is the black hole, spelt W-H-O-L-E. It's the way to wholeness, to integration, to balanced centeredness, to understanding through experiential experience, the push and the pull. And so if you go into that space and you're not someone that gets visions or sounds or beautiful walks on other planets or whatever lots of people describe, that is in no way a reflection of you and your capabilities and what you're here to experience in this life on earth. And this is the change in mindset. Yes, we may have desires to experience these things that others talk about and experience. And this is us. We are deaf, blind, and dumb inside. And this has taken us on another long journey. But what we have learned to change our perspective on is that it means we aren't quite there yet. We are still swimming in the void, in those depths, because we feel that it's the internal subjectivity of psychogeometry, is it, the clairtangency. So when people can get gifts from or get information from objects and from land and from stuff outside of them, when we start dancing this journey inside of them, those are the profound gifts that you will get, but from an internal subjective experience that's going to be able to take you into the depths of these dimensions where there is no time, so that you will be able to gain this thought thing, like it said in the Ace of Swords, intellectual conceptualizations from perspectives and points of view that are probably in this moment of time far beyond the capacity of most people to even able to put themselves around or entertain. And again, that is no reflection on you, and that whole thing, rejection is projection. It's not, which, to change the wording on that, because we don't really like that wording for a number of reasons, but we won't go into it. The rejection isn't anything to do with you. It's just that some of us are too far evolved, and certain levels of our being, because of certain life experiences involved to do with trauma past the spectrum of healthy developmental pruning trauma, into which is everyone's standard father wound and mother wound, which is what's in big talk at the moment, because this journey isn't in the mainstream, but what we're talking about now is in the mainstream of the spiritual world. And this is what has made us exceptionally wary of sharing our story, because what we've got to share is going to trigger the non-mainstream of the non-mainstream. So if you think of the self-development world, the spiritual world as being the non-mainstream, we're going to trigger them. And it makes one feel very isolated. So if we're already navigating a very thin line, then extra care, attention, compassion, and nurturing for ourselves has to come into play, of which we're doing exceptionally well at. And if you go onto that other video we shared earlier, we shared an experience about experience on Discord about how we were measuring and quantifying our progress, and how it sent us deep into a dark valley and void because we weren't doing as well as we thought we were doing, to then realize, no, that's the old conscious, domesticated, conditioned mindsets from our family, from schools, from the culture, from society, which has actually been so harmful to us and almost killed us when we attempted to follow the system's ways before our seizures, after our seizures, before the psych ward adventure. And now we have gained that confidence and that knowingness in us, since being our own teacher and our own student, that, oh my God, no, we're nurturing ourselves with our food, our probiotics, with attempting to align our actions with our values of wanting to care for Mother Earth, but also balancing our budget and then with the finances and stuff. And it's still slow, and we're far from imperfectly perfect. But we are imperfectly perfect in this now moment of ours, with where we are dancing with our complexity that very few understand, but from our present moment awareness, no one understands, hence our isolation. But that's okay, because we understand why. And the uncomfortableness that comes up with our not being comfortable with that are our traumas and our wounds that still need our love and attention and nurturing, so that then moving forward we have healthy relationships with others and don't get caught in drama triangles or trauma bonding relationships or needing someone else. It doesn't mean we don't want someone else, and doesn't mean we don't understand that when we're with someone else there will be highs and lows where you bring the other up or down, but the dependency isn't there. It's interdependent rather than codependent. Oh, our pleasure, Joyce, absolutely our pleasure. And remember though, you and your intuition is your own best teacher, and the thing that we're teaching you most is the energetics coming from us rather than our words. And if our words and our information is teaching you wonderfully as well, then that's a muchos Italian bonus. I don't know why it's a muchos Italian bonus, but maybe you do or someone else does. So let's finish off the 8 of Wands. We can't quite remember where we left off, so we might repeat the middle bit again, but we know that that's for a reason if we do. But as with all wands, the results of the push forward depend upon the person and the circumstances. Most important, the inspiration needs to be brought down to earth. That's where we stopped off, isn't it? Unstructured ideas must be organized into clear form, or they will dissipate. Without organization, the sparks of inspiration may come to nothing. Speech may be rash. Consequences may be ill-considered. And so this is exactly why we didn't want to do this journey that we're doing today and with each one on the channels, but because we didn't want to start our channels again until we had this organized structure and plan in place. But it's not just about going from this to that. It's like when the planets shift between astro energies, there's a retrograde, and in that retrograde it will go back and forth between one astro sign and another if it's changing signs. Or if it's in one sign, it'll go back and forth to the degree in that sign, and each degree means something specific, because again it's coming from a different angle. It's just an increment. Normally when things are happening in increments, we don't tend to notice them as much. They're subtle because we live in a very gross instant gratification society. But actually when we get down into the subtle energetics, again coming from Nassim Haramein, we've been attempting to pronounce his name more accurately since we've heard it a few times in these last amazing interviews. And we will remember, hopefully, to put our Discord community link in the information section, because this is where we use that as our journaling. This is where we put all our information, but it is still very organic, and it's still our tool again to help us become more structured and organized. But there's a lot of amazing information. It's kind of like a journal, an autobiography, an interactive course, and it's just the energetics of it being a bit all over the place is also a step into understanding what the unseen energetic realms are like, because it is all over the place. And to find more of a minimized guiding path, it gives you lots of little loop journeys as well. And so we may not be around again for a while after these readings, but this is another, like Pluto has just come out of retrograding in Capricorn a few days ago. I think it was Friday. This is like our last, because for us Pluto is retrograde in our natal blueprint astro chart, and so this is a stepping into doing these things again, to absorb some information for us, to give you some information, and this is our little way of communicating with spirit through the World Wide Web portal of alive energetics. So it's fascinating to witness and observe the growth and the change and the progress, again, on a subconscious and a super conscious perspective. Dito Popeye! Oh, thank you, my lovelies. We were more extreme on our oscillation before, on the swing of the pendulum. So it was, look at our left finger now. Our left finger now is very rigid. Our left is the present. Tito Pomo! You've got that from when we watch our series on Prime of My Lady Jane, and she's a queen, and she puts her hands together like this, but they're not all together. Her left hand is going down and it's rigid because she's acting, and in her present conscious state she's consciously acting, so there has to be a rigidity in her baby finger to keep her composure, to do the job she's doing, which is acting out being a queen. And that also brings us into the Ren cord. All these different dimensions are interlinked because Chinchilla, which is an independent artist, and we're all about these independent artists and getting away from big corporate companies, also sings a song in that. So it's connecting the loops and lots of different levels between all of us. And again, we've kind of we've transitioned then to what we were saying. But yes, you might not see us again after we do lives on each of these channels, but I'm pretty sure we'll be back. We're just doing our own individual subjective experience of what retrograde planets do between the signs, because we know how strong our energy is, and if it isn't done with pure, deepest, conscientious intention, we know the potential harm it could have on some others if they are in a deeply vulnerable state like us, or like if they are in a deeply vulnerable state like we have been, because that's what we've just had to navigate through. And we've had some beautiful people to observe and to witness and to trigger us so that we can navigate through these experiences and do our best not to do the same for others, but knowing that sometimes we will, but that then we're not responsible for it because we've been so deeply, profoundly integral and conscientious, because I know that's who we are. And there's so much of what we hear that is the other not understanding themselves enough on a deep level, and accidentally, subconsciously mirroring and mimicking others' voices, and so they haven't got their own experience to go with that, and that's okay. There's no judgment. That's their experience. But because of us and we're the anomaly of anomalies, the outliers of outliers, we understand the harm that can do from both ends of it. And so therefore we don't have the words for it, but it's like when we worked in the bar TARDIS, which is very fitting for the name, in New Zealand. And this was the bar that, I mean, we didn't start work until midnight. Well, actually, no, it didn't. We started at about 7 or 8 in the evening, and we work sometimes all the way through, but sometimes we might finish at like midnight, 1 o'clock if it's a quiet night, because that's when the other shift would come on. But we were the bar that closed last, and this was a 24-hour license. So basically, when all the other bars closed, their staff would come to us. So it's almost like, and we're very uncomfortable with saying this, it's almost like we're a teacher for the teacher, but we're not a teacher for the teacher from the conventional understanding of teaching. Again, the nothingness, the void, the black empty space is number 5, the Hierophant card in the Osho Zen. We're a teacher because we've experienced dancing in this void for so long that we're so comfortable with it that we will be a teacher by being conscientious with our wording, sharing our experiences, and the other will be triggered because we're still not completely comfortable with this, but sadly that's our gift. And we know this from reflection of people in our physical tangible reality, and that's why everything that we're doing at the moment has to be through the virtual world and through technology, because it responds on the electromagnetic field in a different way. But our gift is we bring out the most beautiful of the other with them being around us, by us naturally being us, not even saying any words, just being in our energy. But we also present a mirror to the deepest depths of the other's shadows. And the majority of people don't like looking in the mirror and seeing the deepest depths of their shadows. And one of the things that's caused us the most pain is being the person that causes pain on another, being the cause that causes pain on the other. But when you're the cause of causing pain on the other by just being yourself, and you hold suicidal ideation, that's a very tricky one to navigate. But that's why we have to make ourselves super, super centered, strong, and balanced. And at the end of the day, if you are what you eat, if you are what you consume, if you are what you watch and what you listen to and what you put yourself around, if you're around someone that has the depths of the experiences that we've had, knowing that there's always worse off, knowing that there's always better off, that can hold composure and centeredness with what we have to navigate sometimes, then that is the most beautiful, integral, authentic energy to be around. Because we're not doing this from a consumerism point of view for you as in the other. We're doing this for us as in the other watching this. But we're also doing it for you because we understand now what's going on. And it's taken us a long time to get there because even though our little still live from that instant gratification, we understand the long-term gratification and the importance of that, and how slow and steady wins the race to a true lifestyle change. And yeah. So let's finish that off, shall we? We're just going to actually... Do you want out Sunday, yeah? Or you're okay? No, I think it's okay. Where do we live? We live in Cornwall, the most southwestern peninsula of the UK, Joyce. Yeah, we remember that you're in the USA, and most of our viewers and people we've interacted with have been from the USA. Tito boy! We keep going to tell you not to point, my lovelies, but if you need to point, you can point. Snowflake aspect of us, which is the two, and the Native American Indians, she's American. So she was born and tethered into our being from the Native American Indians when our mum took us to America when we were 2. And Snowflake is the name that was given to us through the Native American Indians. And the Native American Indians normally name you through your dreams, but a 2-year-old can't really, I mean, even as an adult, we can't recite our dream. We can't really remember them in the conventional way to recite our dreams to someone to name us from them, but they named us through that. And so that's our very strong, we call the native shamanic tribal stuff the earthly spirituality, and then our Hindu and our yoga, and even like your man-made religion, because not all man-made religion is is the cosmic spirituality. So yeah, we're honored to be in the presence of you and others from America, because you're just so beneficial for the growth of our snowflake energetics. Okay, so let's finish that last bit. Writers understand deeply what is involved here. It is the translation of unconscious materials into the linear and sequential perceptions of the conscious mind. It is as if a work pre-exists somewhere in toto and is brought down to reality by the writer. This process is not an easy one. If it were, great poets, novelists, the philosophers would abound in society. And we're just grinning on that one because The Hero of a Thousand Faces, the current book club book we're doing at the moment, after that it's Alice in Wonderland. Lady Topo Pie. No, it's not at all. We always get them mixed up. That will come about because we did with all the copyright stuff, we did learn we're not ready to maybe email people for copy to get copyright accept okayingness. Lost our words again. You can tell that we're in the no snowflake networks now. But we understand about the public domain, so we've purchased some books on the public domain so that we can do the journey we've done before. Well, some of us want to do the journey we've done before. Others of us don't, because they feel that we're repeating it and that we didn't get anywhere before. The ones of us that feel like we're repeating it and don't want to do it because we didn't get anywhere before are the mindsets in us that are changing the perspective to understand about the nurturing and about what we're actually benefiting from this allowed reading, and what others can as well, just by being in our energetics. And this time, you know, we are much more progressed and coherent, even if we're not quite where we want to be yet. But that's okay. We're much more accepting and okay with not being there yet as well. And we're much more supportive and loving and accepting of our littles. And we still get emotional, but we can bring ourselves back a lot better as well. So Yellow Brick Road. I know, but it's not coming. It's not Alice in Wonderland. Wizard of Oz. Wizard of Oz is the next book we're doing, and we're pretty sure that Toto is the dog that's in the Wizard of Oz book. And it brings us back to you, Joyce, in the USA. Well, not you specifically, because it's not, but you've got Kansas, haven't you? But you've got the city Kansas isn't in the county, no, you do state, isn't in the state Kansas or something like that, I don't know. But for us, there's been all kinds of many synchronicities with the red shoes and the slippers, how she clicks her heels together. For us, there's a whole thing with our yoga movement, how we'll start the patterning, clicking the heels together, but then you have to click the front of the feet together. Your heel in reflexology is your coccyx and your sacrum, and then you've got your big toes are your brain and your eyes and your ears. And so when you're doing this together, you're bringing different parts of your body together while widening the bottom part of your body. And it's disconnected. While you're doing this, you're bringing the coccyx and your bottom part of your body together. So there's all kinds of stuff like this that when we watch stuff or read stuff, it comes into play. So I wouldn't be surprised if I think we might have seen an Alice in Wizard of Oz, but yeah, some of us have, I'm sure. Some of us might have even heard the story, but it wasn't as a kid, and it's all very disjointed. So we're going to be reading that book live on Shintos before we do the book club reading on it. So yeah, that's just come up to share. So very lastly, we've got a Moon Magic surprise wee bonus rock. Look at that. I definitely think, guys, that we don't go on and do the other 3 channels today, and that we spread it over through the week, because this has been absolutely amazing, but I think we need proper time to integrate. Look at all the pictures on the back of these cards. They're gorgeous. It's okay. Beautiful Grandma Moon, you've done so much for us, and you do so much for the collective, whether they're aware of it or not. Hopefully more will become consciously aware of dancing within Moonology energies. What special last beautiful message can we give to everyone? Let's hold our hands up so that you can see the shuffling a bit more. And plus, it's not even about the allowed reading, it's just about doing the journey again with learning YouTube again and all the rest of it. Learning new beginnings with this active force is and energies that's coming into play with the 3 outer planets as well for the next 2 years. Thank you. Look at that. The next 2 years, the forceful active energies that are coming into play, and she's sitting and she's observing in either the sunrise or the sunset energies. We're never sure if there's a way of being able to tell how or not. We set our alarm for sunrise and sunset, but because of the way with the wavelengths and the way the quantum realms work, and how you've got longer days in summer, so you've got longer days in summer and shorter ones in winter, we, with our sunrise and sunset, we actually, I think it's 11 minutes, we minus 11 minutes in summer, and then we do 22, 33, dancing with all the master numbers, so that in winter there's 66 minutes before sunrise and before sunset that our alarm goes off. 66 is the number of healing. It's made up of a double dose of unconditional love. It's that Tesla code of the unseen energetics of 3, 6, and 9, but it's if the unseen is the black, it's the white within the black. It's the white, it's the 6 is the seen within the unseen. Equals 12 on the traditional numerology expansion, adding it together, which for us is the conventional society seen structural integrity, complex structural integrity, with the baker's dozen, 12 months, 12 hours on a clock. For us, 13 is the feminine complex stability of the scene. It's the masculine and the feminine structural integrity or strength, balance, flexibility. But then you've got the unseen, the divine masculine, the divine feminine, the divine masculine being 64, which in this moment we can't quite integrate into words, but it's to do with the Merkaba, it's to do with the star tetrahedron. It's to do with either the number of edges, sides, or faces or points, or something of the sacred geometry of the star tetrahedron, the Merkaba. So we could say now, for instance, that we're channeling energies from Metatron, because he's all about those energies, but we don't dance within those realms of terminology. So for the next 2 years, the guidance is to be able to learn to sit and observe. But it may be, to start with, that you're sitting and you're observing is that you get on a bike and you ride, because you're not able quite yet to sit because there's too much energy, there's too much activity. But when you're sitting on a bike, you're going slower than in a car, you're being better for the environment, you're being better for your physical health, and you're observing nature around you. So it's an active meditation rather than a sitting passive meditation. And then, for instance, cycling could even be a passive active meditation because you're sitting, whereas running would be an active meditation. And when you're sitting, a passive meditation would be closing your eyes, going into your own internal reality and doing your traditional with your yoga mudras, or you might have an open-eyed meditation where you're sitting, so you're in the external reality and you may be listening to Om Shanti Shanti, Om Mani Padme Hum, or something you don't understand the lyrics to, because if you understand the lyrics to, you're bringing in your conscious mind and you're just it's not deceiving the purpose, but you're missing the purpose of bringing yourself down into a relaxed state. When you want to bring yourself into a relaxed state consciously in your waking state, you want to take yourself out of beta, out of your prefrontal noble neocortex. Our words are all over the place. I'm going to so laugh on that one when we watched it back. Into your out of beta, your 13 to 30 hertz, into alpha, your 8 to 13 hertz. And to do that, you need to not listen to a language that you understand. You can listen to a language you don't understand because it's activating different parts of your brain. So I hope that was an eye-opening experience to different types of meditation. It doesn't have to all be the same. Life is conspiring for me, and it's the last quarter moon. So again, we've got the full moon in Aries coming up on Thursday the 17th, give or take, depending on your time zone and where you are on the globe. And so then that's the full moon. And so the new moon is going to be sometime the start of November. We haven't actually looked that far ahead at the moment. We're very much present moment living at the moment. And so therefore the week between, so we'd say around the 24th of October, there's going to be some magical energies for you to tap into that will help facilitate your experience of starting to find your center and your stillness, even if that's in an active meditation. It's a change of perspective, working with these collective energies that are going on. And because we always do the top and bottom, the aware, and the top of the top is the aware, the seen, that looks more like a sunrise or a sunset above Earth. It looks like you're actually in the membrane of the ozone layer. This is Earth, this is the membrane of the ozone layer, and this is the solar eclipse that's just happened, but you're in the membrane. Bye. Oh, that is wonderful, isn't it, my sweethearts? That is really beautiful, because this is all reading about the pre-conscious, the pre-subconscious, and the pre-superconscious. And again, you'll have to go to our other video at the end to understand that. We'll hopefully, even if we just go in now and put one timestamp on it, we'll put one timestamp towards the end. But it's not as linear like you think. Well, we don't know, that's not accurate with our words, because we've got no idea what you think. But it's not linear like we thought, or like society projects, of how they do a line. They do a conscious and they do the subcon, and then pre-con, as in the pre-conscious, and pre-subcon, the no man's land, the barrier between two countries. This is the opposite way round because it follows that zigzag pattern. So the pre-conscious is actually deeper into the subconscious than the pre-subcon. Now, there may be people that dispute that, and we don't care, and that's really proud of us. We're really proud to say that, because this is us finding the words and the diagrams. It's not actually like that at all either. That's the conventional way of doing things. It's actually like this, a 2D representation of something that's actually a ball in 3D, because it becomes really hard to translate three-dimensional, or three dimensionals, this reality that we live in, unseen, energetic, subjective experience of the ineffable, the don't have the words for, whether the words might not even exist in the vocabulary of the English language or whatever language you have, but it's more than likely that it's just one's own individual vocabulary base isn't wide or is too small or what have you. And so it's in the membrane. Those circles that we're talking about, the pre-con, the pre-subcon, the pre-supercon, is the ozone layer of Mother Earth. So that's amazing. And that is, I know myself deeply and find myself worthy. You know yourself deeply and you find yourself worthy, and it is the eclipse energy. So we were spot on with recognizing that. And then the bottom one is the words first we're going to give you. My words and actions are of beauty, compassion, and love. Moon God Baim. We don't know if I said that right. Baime, but we'll always attempt to say it because we feel that's better than not attempting to say it at all. So your words and your actions are of beauty, compassion, and love. Using the fourth agreement of the four agreements, knowing that you can only do your best. And if you're ill, or if you're tired, or if you're triggered, you may not be able to do that in your now moment. But the more you become aware and the more you practice, the more you will actually be able to shift it in the now moment. And it's a beautiful experience when that happens. And that is when you finally land upon Mother Earth. You finally land in your body, just like it said on one of these cards here when we read out of the book. You grounding, I can't remember exactly, we're going to just get it out again because it's important. It's about bringing the energies into the body, isn't it? It said that whole journey for us. The inspiration needs to be brought down to earth, and that is the conscious, the aware, the seen. And that is the end of this beautiful reading, and we're super proud of that, and we're so happy that we followed our intuition and our heart today. Kansas is a state in the United States. We have 50 states, Hawaii and Alaska included. Both places we want to go to. We were mentioning about Hawaii. We're speaking about the words and the language again. Hawaii has half the alphabet of the English language, thereabouts, and the Hindu Sanskrit has double the amount of the English language. Both two very spiritual. Hindu and Sanskrit much more cosmic spiritual. Hawaii we see as much more land, tribal spiritual. The devil energies, the earthly dense energies, and the high priestess energies. Maybe that's what's just come to us in that moment. You struggle with sitting in passive meditation, yet we struggle with passive sitting meditation. It's the one thing with our pelvis, all fear and trauma, it gets stored in the psoas muscle, your hip flexors. It takes 4 times the amount of energy to use your thumb than it does the psoas muscle. And so sitting can be very challenging. And that's why we want to share these other aspects of meditation and what one can do. I mean, we just heard the other day someone describe reading as a meditation because it takes you elsewhere. And we were just like, oh, if only reading did that for us. Because for us, reading takes us back to it. It takes us elsewhere than our present moment. It takes us actually into all kinds of memories that we've experienced in our whole life, but it's taken us to different moments in time in our life, of places we've traveled all over, because we don't have the ability to do that, read a book and to escape into the book. That's where we end up watching things and escape into something, which is very interesting. Oh, and in capital letters, making it point, we are very beautiful and you are grateful for us. And we read it that way round because you're saying it to us. And so we had to feel that and hear that and embrace that. And now we're going to read it how it's written, and we're going to read it how it's written, meaning it for you, because you are a beautiful being and we are grateful for you. Thank you, Joyce. And that goes to everyone that we have the honour for you coming to this reading and watching it, and hopefully getting something from it. As I say, we do things very differently, but I hope there's some useful information in there for you. And Joyce, it's been a pleasure. Thank you for joining us. And hopefully we'll see. I'm afraid this is intuitive, but we will be going live on Shintos, following up on these energies, and on Joy to Coco. Not in that order. We're not sure which way round those two are going to go. But it will end finishing up. Sorry, we almost gave you the middle finger then. It will end finishing up on Zanoni Snowflake. So that's for anyone that ends up seeing this. If you want to come and join us live on this little intuitive hitch journey, while we pop up and show up for you and us again in this brief moment before we finally show up when we've gained more organisation and structure. Actually, no, because we're going to be doing the allowed reading, but more organisation and structure in this way with the card reading, because we've had a lot of ideas come through, and we're not going to do card readings how other people do it, of snippets. When we do our card reading, it's going to be something that can be a snippet if it wants to be, but it's of a bigger picture, it's of a bigger journey for you and us. So it's already had a lot of planning and structure go into it, but we always have to revisit from the different energetic cohesion of us that comes together. And as I said, these hopefully it's going to be before the next 2 years, but with these planets shifting, I think the Plutos, that's what we were going to say, Joyce, earlier. It's interesting you said that about the sitting down passive, because I know we were talking about it, but it's not until we received your information in saying that Pluto governs the reproductive organs and the elimination system, but it's all about transformation. It's the modern ruler of Scorpio, and Scorpio is the whole groin area and the whole pelvis, and so all those things are integrate. We're losing our words, but they all come together. And for us personally, on our blueprint this morning at 2:44 a.m, Venus was conjunct our natal Uranus, and our natal Uranus it's in house 3, the same house as our natal Pluto. But our natal Pluto is Libra, and our natal Uranus is actually Scorpio, the rule of the pelvis, which is about waking up. So this is about us and you that's not us watching back, constantly dancing that harmonic, patient, passionate, kind journey, starting with ourselves of unconditional love, to the silent space of transcendence of the Om, which you'll be able to see in our other video as well if you go to it, navigate our way through the A, the U, the M to get to the silent space afterwards of transcendent, which is the sitting still. A, creation, U, sustenance, M, destruction. Or maybe if you're like us, you have to go M-U-A, destruction, sustenance, creation, silence. And so on that note, we are going to end it with the M, the U, the A. You may wish to join in or not, or watch or listen or not, whatever takes your fancy. We're actually going to put our hands on our heart, and because it was a butterfly right at the start of the reading up here, that was important, we're going to interlink our left and right brain hemispheres by interlinking our thumb and almost make angel wings, and we're going to put them on our heart. It's our pleasure, Joyce. Put them on our heart, and we're going to go or ah. So or, destruction, sustenance, creation. We're going to do that 3 times, and then we're going to do it the right way round. Or creation, sustenance, destruction, and then we're going to be silent for a few breaths, and then we'll say goodbye. So thank you. We're just going to do a little somatic body work, subtle shaking, first, where we take a few deep inhalations and exhalations. And we've now been told that actually we're going to keep this position, but they want to do it on the bottom of our back. But with our conscious mind is going, how do we do that on the bottom of our back? Because we can't put the palms on the bottom of our back. And we can't lift them up. Oh yeah, we can. We can kind of do that on the bottom of our back and then kind of lift our hands up. I don't know if that's because of our EDS and our hypermobility. So you may be able to do that. You may not. Follow your body and what your body's asking you to do if you are doing this. And we're actually going to put our tongue on the tip of our mouth behind our front teeth when we start off with the M. We did manage. Yeah, we somehow managed to get the palms on the bottom of our back after that. Namaste. Thank you.